Day 2 of the NFL draft in the books. Adam Azer, Jamie Eisenberg, and Heath Cummings here to talk about it on a Friday night. And we're tired, but I'm feeling pretty good, ready to rock and roll and talk about these guys. It's been a fun 2 days, and day 2 is always more fantasy relevant than day 1. You just get a lot more players off the board. And what's going on with Ken Walker? What's going on with Travis Etienne? Did we lose 2 awesome breakout running backs for 2023? That's obviously a big question that we will answer. Trivia question for you guys. Don't even think about it. Just jump right. You have 1 second to answer. Were there more wide receivers or tight ends selected on Friday night?
Tight ends.
Tight end.
You are wrong. Oh, you should have taken more time to think about it. There were 10 wide receivers. There were 8 tight ends. I did feel that way. There were a ton of tight ends, 8 of them off the board. So that was pretty fun. And good. Heath, good tight end class. Not a great wide receiver class. Good tight end class.
The greatest tight end class that never mattered. No, I'm sure a couple of them will matter in 3 years. I'm excited about them.
Come on. The Cowboys, the Bills. We got some good opportunities. Lions. Raiders.
Packers drafted 2 of them.
Packers drafted 2 of them. I'm missing the joke there.
I think they drafted 2 tight ends, didn't they?
They drafted 2 tight ends. What's the joke?
Okay. Oh, you said it like I thought like they drafted a receiver that was like a tight. That's kind of a Heath joke. They drafted Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. They did draft 2 legitimate tight ends. I thought you were calling someone else a tight end. Sorry about that. Okay. Hey, real quick. So we did this yesterday. We'll do it again today. Who is your favorite day 2 quarterback for 2023? And who is your favorite day 2 quarterback for Dynasty? And there are only 2. Will Levis to the Titans, Hendon Hooker to the Lions. Who do you guys like better for 2023 and for Dynasty?
Levis. I think there's an easier path to start for him this year because Tannehill could get traded. I don't think Jared Goff is getting traded. And based on age, he may get an opportunity to play in his prime as opposed to Hooker, who knows when he'll get on the field.
Yeah, Levis for sure. Dynasty. Can I give it a push on 2023? Because I don't think either one of them will be my top 32 quarterbacks.
You sure can.
Okay.
All right. Now
I like the moves though for the 2 teams. I mean, you needed something there.
Mm-hmm.
The Titans whiffed on Malik Willis. He just doesn't seem like he's an NFL ready quarterback, at least right now. And the Lions, trying to find their heir apparent as well. If Jared Goff does get does not succeed and they don't have a playoff run this year, they may decide that that's the position they have to address significantly.
All right. Will Levis to the Titans, Hendon Hooker, and that was in the 2nd round. Hendon Hooker to the Lions in the 3rd round. All right, let's look at the running backs here. I want your favorite running back, just the day 2 guys, not Bijan, not Jahmyr Gibbs. Your favorite running back from day 2 for 2023, your favorite running back from day 2 for Dynasty. And we're looking at Zach Charbonnet to the Seahawks in round 2. He was the only round 2 running back. And then we had 4 in round 3. We had Kendre Miller out of TCU. I'll do my best to kind of give you a quick scouting report here. Zach Charbonnet is a big physical guy. He's 214 pounds, 6 feet. He goes to Seattle. Kendre Miller, not a really explosive guy, kind of an in-between the tacklers runner, 5'11", 215. He goes to the Saints. Tyjae Spears. Some people like him more than others. Some people just view him as a change of pace back.
Does not have an ACL.
Out of Tulane. He is 5'10", 201. He goes to Tennessee. So obviously we got to see where Derrick Henry is going to be. Devon Achane. This guy's small, but he's fast and he's fun. Man, he's kind of like, would you say Devon Achane is like Jahmyr Gibbs a couple rounds later? Similar type of profile?
Yeah, not a bad comparison.
Okay, and he went to the Dolphins. Very, very fast player. And Tank Bigsby. They don't call him Tank for no reason, although I don't know why they call Tank Dell Tank. Very different players. But Tank Bigsby, running back from Auburn, 6 foot, 210 pounds. And he is a bigger dude. He's going to Jacksonville. So who is your favorite for 2023? Heath, you can start. Who's your favorite for Dynasty as well?
It's the A-Train. Definitely for 2023, I think he has the best chance to be the lead back in a good offense. I would expect that Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson are going to get the veterans edge and start the year as the duo, but we know their injury histories, we know their age, and we know what Mike McDaniel can do with explosive players, and Achane is an explosive player. So I like him best for 2023. I'm going to have my top 12 for Dynasty out by tomorrow. And one of the things that I'll be sleeping on is Achane versus Charbonnet in Dynasty, because I liked Charbonnet quite a bit more coming into this process. And he was drafted earlier, but I don't know how or when he's going to be a lead running back.
Jamie, same question to you. We got your favorite 2020, favorite in 2023, favorite in Dynasty, these 5 running backs.
I agree with Heath that is it how you say it again?
Charbonnet?
No,
Achane.
the Dolphins.
Achane.
Achane.
Yep.
He's my favorite for 2023, but I think Spears is my favorite for Dynasty because Derrick Henry is not going to be on the Titans next year. And if he shows anything in his rookie campaign, certainly better than Haskins, then he could be their guy next season, especially if he's healthy. So he could almost take a redshirt year if they don't, if they keep Henry. We know there's still the potential rumor. And I think the fact that the Eagles have now gone through 2 days of the NFL draft without adding a running back and that rumor still being there, maybe that's something that could materialize on day 3 or after the NFL draft. But I think Spears for me would be the one that I would look at, just knowing that there's the chance of a complete rebuild for the Titans coming up. It could be the middle of the season. They could decide if Tannehill does stay on the team, they go to Levis, they move on from Henry. Could happen a trade during the season. So Spears is my favorite of this group for Dynasty, which sucks because I really was hoping Charbonnet was going to go someplace that he could be a lead guy. And again, an injury may help that, but I don't think he's getting that opportunity in Seattle.
Dave is texting me right now. He said, Pete Carroll just said that Zach Charbonnet can handle third downs, but so can Kenny. We'll rotate them there too. I think it's fair. For you guys, don't hold anyone to their Dynasty or 2023 rankings right now. We really have to see how this plays out.
Right.
We're just going to have some fun tonight and talk about these players. All right, let's go to wide receiver now. We had 10 wide receivers selected today, and that started with maybe a little bit of a surprise. Jonathan Mingo going to the Carolina Panthers in round 2. He's the 5th wide receiver off the board after the 4 we had in the first round. Jonathan Mingo out of Ole Miss. 6'2", 220. Then we had Jayden Reed on his birthday. Happy birthday, Jayden Reed. You're an NFL player out of Michigan State going to the Packers. So the Packers drafted 2 tight ends and a wide receiver. Not bad. Rashee Rice going to the Chiefs. Kind of a bigger outside guy, 6'1", 204. Marvin Mims. He's a deep threat going to the Broncos. 5'11", 183. Gets down the field in a hurry. Nathaniel Tank Dell to the Texans. 5'8", 165. This guy's small, but he's fun. Then we had in the 3rd round, we had back-to-back Tennessee Volunteers. Jalen Hyatt to the Giants. He's the smaller, deep. He is also a deep threat. There's Mike Wallace comparisons from Ryan Wilson. And then Cedric Tillman, a more complete player, less explosive, goes to the Browns. Josh Downs, kind of like a Zay Flowers type. Slotty, 5'9", 171, goes to the Colts. Michael Wilson, bigger guy, outside guy, 6'2", 213. He goes to the Cardinals. And Trey Tucker, a bit of a surprise pick by the Raiders. He's more of I think he's a return specialist, very underwhelming numbers from a 3rd round wide receiver. We thought maybe it would be his teammate, Trey Scott, going here. Is that his name? Trey
Scott is a wide receiver.
Yeah, sorry. So he's Trey Tucker. But anyway, out of Cincinnati, and probably not going to have a huge impact. At least that's going to be our approach. So I know there are a lot of names here. Heath, who's your favorite 2023 day 2 wide receiver? Who's your favorite in Dynasty?
So Jonathan Mingo, my favorite for 2023. I think he has the best chance to be like the number 1 or number 2 on his own team, even though he was on the number 2 on an Ole Miss team that I don't think had anybody that's going to play in the NFL. But just that Thielen, Chark, Terrace Marshall group is the easiest to beat out. And then I'm kind of going to go back and forth because Mims was my number 5 wide receiver before the draft. It's going to be Mingo or Mims at number 5 now. But I also think that Mingo, and Dave brought this up, he kind of fits that Michael Pittman body style that what Frank Reich seems to like in a wide receiver. So I like that fit quite a bit.
Okay, because I've actually seen some AJ Brown comparisons for Jonathan Mingo.
Yeah.
Because they went to Ole Miss, obviously. All right, Jamie, how about you? Your favorite for 2023, your favorite for Dynasty?
It's Mingo for both, but I do think it's a very interesting group because you have a hole essentially for the number 3 receiver in Green Bay, and Reed could fill that. Obviously, we know what the Chiefs receiving core looks like right now. Rice could come in and have an opportunity to play and have a significant role with the best quarterback in the league. Tank Dell going to the Texans, their situation being what it is. I know he's a smaller guy, but could have a chance to be a very productive receiver. My favorite of the latter guys would be Josh Downs, just because I think getting a slot receiver to Anthony Richardson is a great spot. And I'll go back again, just to give them some credit. The trainer that I speak to quite a bit, Tony Belani at CBS Sports, this was his round for wide receivers. Their group. They trained for the combine. Jayden Reed, is it Rashee Rice?
Rashee
Rice, Tank Dell, and Josh Downs. They had that whole group along with Jordan Addison. So it was a pretty impressive wide receiver run for them. And to have all those guys go in the first 2 days, I think is pretty impressive. So they did a good job getting those guys ready for the league.
Okay. Do you see any of these guys as top 100 picks in a fantasy draft for this year?
Oh, Mingo should be. I mean, Adam Thielen has got a huge opportunity in front of him, but it feels like he's, needs a walker at times, get out there on the field. He's just old. And you said it, it feels like the type of receiver that could be a Frank Reich guy. And, I think if you're going the route that the Panthers are going of, okay, we've invested in our young quarterback, let's develop that rapport with a young receiver who many thought could be in the first round conversation, for Mingo. So I think there's a chance for him to, if he has a good camp and, maybe good preseason, he can make the leap.
Anyone else? Just Mingo as a top 100 receiver from this, not including yesterday's guys.
Let's see what happens in training camp with Achane. I think he's the other one who could jump into the top 100, or he might be there anyway. But he's an round 8, round 9 type guy.
Oh, you're talking the running backs too. I'm sorry.
No, I was talking about the receivers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's cool. By the way, if you're trying to think, all right, so Carolina takes a quarterback, number 1 overall, then they draft a wide receiver in the second round. When was the last time that happened? That was Joe Burrow and T. Higgins, and they were great as rookies. Burrow
has to be round 1, round 2, or day 1, day 2.
Round 1, round 2.
What was Pickens last year? 1 and 3.
I was talking about number 1 overall, but yeah, Pickens I think was a second round pick or a third round pick.
I think it was a third round pick.
Okay. Yeah, but Burrow and Higgins were terrific. I mean, you have to look at Higgins' numbers just with Burrow because Burrow got hurt after 10 games or in his 10th game, but he was really on fire. So I don't know. I don't think anybody really expected that as a rookie from Higgins, but it's that possibility is out there maybe for Mingo. Okay,
well, that was that great receiver class, and he was a day 2 pick. When that was the Jefferson,
right.
Ayuk class.
Right. Yes. Jerry, Judy, CD, right. Ruggs, Judy, Lamb, Rager, Jefferson, Ayuk, and then Higgins. Okay, guys.
Take Ruggs out of the equation. Which name just does not belong? Poor Jalen Rager.
Well, the Eagles have made up for it since then. So how about the tight ends?
Georgia guys.
There were not a bad strategy. There were 8 taken in rounds 2 and 3, and I'm not going to read them all. So Jamie, who's your favorite? You know what? Let's include Kincaid. Who's your favorite rookie tight end for 2023 and then for Dynasty?
Yeah, I started thinking more about what you were saying last night. I don't think the ceiling is quite there for him to be a top. What do you say? 9, 8, 9?
Yeah, he will be no lower than 9 or 10 for me.
Yeah, I'll still take the bet that we have. I'll take Okonkwo over him, but just the idea of him just playing in the slot is very intriguing. If that's the route, if that's the role they're going to keep him in, and he'll be on the field a lot with Dawson Knox. So he would be my favorite given the draft capital. But it's so hard to look the opportunities for all these guys, or a lot of these guys. Excuse me. When you have the Lions and the need a tight end, the Raiders and the need a tight end, the Cowboys and the need a tight end. And just the chance for those guys, even the Packers, as Heath, said, drafting 2 guys, Musgrave being the first one. But I'll take Kincaid first. I'll take Mayer second. I just think, the Raiders, smart move to go out and get fill a hole and add to what is a very good receiving core, now that, especially if Devontae Adams doesn't fall off, which I don't think he's going to fall off dramatically at his age. But, they have some nice weapons there for Jimmy Garoppolo if he can continue to make plays and stay healthy.
I'll stick with Kincaid and Mayer as 1 and 2 in Dynasty for sure. In redraft right now, I'll go with Laporta as my favorite. And I'll say I think that another guy that could jump into that conversation, I want to see if he wins the job first or not, but Schoonmaker also with Dallas. Like, it's going to be him or Ferguson, but they've gone through 3 or 4 different guys now in the last 5 years. Somebody's getting 100 to 110 targets at a tight end in that offense.
Laporta is so intriguing because of the 6-game suspension for Jameson Williams, because he can get off to a good start in terms of targets and opportunity. And, maybe he just runs away with it as a result of that. But, we've certainly seen it. The Tyler Higbee breakout stretch, Jared Goff is not afraid to use his tight end. And, Ben Johnson, I think people might forget that TJ Hawkinson had some obviously pretty good moments at the beginning of, their pairing before they made the trade last year.
All right, we're going to take a break here, and we are going to talk about the Seahawks and the Jaguars. I mean, I think Seahawks a little bit more top of mind for everybody, and Pete Carroll, according to Dave, said Charbonnet is going to be right in there with Ken.
Which, like, we should just like ban the phrase Pete Carroll said on this podcast.
Yeah, you're right. That's the other thing. It's like the least credible coach when it comes to quotes. By the way, we had 4 running backs selected in round 3 today. In the last 8 seasons, going into 2023, the last 8 seasons, there have been 24 running backs selected in round 3. Only 4 of them were great, and only 5 of them were top 20 running backs as rookies. So 6 of them were top 24 out of 24 running backs. So it hasn't been a great round for running backs, but there have been Kareem Hunt, David Johnson, Alvin Kamara, Antonio Gibson.
Jonathan Taylor
was solid. Yeah. Where was he? No, Jonathan Taylor was round 2.
I thought you said round 2. I'm sorry.
No, this is round 3 I'm talking about.
Oh, Dameon Pierce. Round
4.
He was round 4. Okay.
Yeah, day 3. Yeah. Anyway, we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. All right. We are on YouTube. If you're watching, hello. If you're not watching, we're at youtube.com/fantasy football today. All of our shows, you can watch them live. We usually record at 11 a.m. Eastern or 11 p.m. Eastern in this case, or you can watch on demand, youtube.com/fantasy football today. Click the live tab for the full episodes. There's also some great recap, instant reaction that we recorded. Dave, Jamie, and Heath recorded during the first 2 days of the draft for these prospects. So you can see all of those. We've got to congratulate Tony Fuedo. He is the winner of our NFL draft contest. Congratulations. You got 6 out of 10 correct, and you are in the contest league. Nice work.
He was in Fuedo.
He was in Fuedo. Absolutely. All right. So the Dynasty show on Tuesday and more on Monday. Like we are, I don't know. We're going to get to all of these prospects and what to expect from them. Let's talk about the impact on the current NFL players, and let's talk about the Jacksonville and the Seattle running back situation. So, Jamie, what do you think about the Seattle Seahawks right now and Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet?
I hate it. I really, really hate it. I mean, Ken Walker was one of my favorite guys coming into the season, and to continue the Pete Carroll avoid what he says. He told me at the owners meeting when I asked him about Ken Walker getting better that he was going to have a bigger role in the passing game. Maybe that is true. If that's a route they decide to go with him and make him more of a third down back. But the draft capital is the same. A second round pick for Walker, a second round pick for Charbonnet. Walker, when you talk about singles and doubles versus home runs, he left a lot of singles and doubles probably on the table, too much for the Seahawks liking, and was looking for the home run, and maybe that's something that bothered Pete Carroll in this offense, but it just didn't feel like it was a need for them. And anytime you start to take luxury picks, that could be a problem for the guy that's already entrenched in the position. So we said this last night. You asked me about Bijan versus Ken Walker, and that was close for me. It's not even a question. Yeah. My God. So I still would take Walker over Charbonnet, but now we're talking about a guy that goes from wherever you wanted to put him, he was a top 10 running back for fantasy. He's barely a top 20 guy now.
Is it round 3, round 4?
Oh, round 4 at the earliest. I don't know how you can take him in the first 3 rounds. Charbonnet might be better.
Heath?
Yeah, I think I said round 4 earlier on when we did our live breakdown. I think Ken Walker was the biggest loser of the first 2 days of the draft in terms of fantasy value, and that goes for Dynasty as well. He was a top 10 back for me in redraft. He was a top 4 back for me in Dynasty, and Jamie said he's barely top 20. I don't think he's, when I get my rankings updated tomorrow or Sunday, I don't think he's going to be in my top 20. Now, I think he still has a lot of upside. That's the nice thing about both him and Charbonnet. And so if you can get him in round 4, or if you're drafting Charbonnet in round 6 or round 7, I think like one injury, it's kind of like the old Chubb Hunt thing, except not as high end. If one of them gets hurt, you're probably going to get a top 12 running back.
Think about this, that we can get to August. I'm going to throw up when I say this. That Rashad Penny may be the best fantasy running back of the Eagles and Seahawks.
So let me just play devil's advocate and make the Ken Walker managers out there in Dynasty a little more optimistic. I'm going to give you some running backs who were drafted in the second round. I did a little bit of this with you, Heath, when I intruded on your instant reaction. I was so mad that Dave said, why don't you come on our instant reaction show? But I did a little bit. Okay. So anyway, these are guys who were drafted in the second round. Derrick Henry didn't do much. 110 carries as a rookie. DeMarco Murray had a really good year. Nick Chubb did almost nothing until they traded Carlos Hyde. And then Nick Chubb went berserk. Ronald Jones, 23 carries. Miles Sanders.
When do you get to the point where we're supposed to feel good about Ken Walker?
Already.
Oh, because this is what Charbonnet is going to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah. This is. I'm sorry. Yes, this is a case that Charbonnet may not have a very big role, even though he was picked in the second round. I would even say Ken Walker, right? I mean, Ken Walker was a backup to Rashad Penny until Penny got hurt. Miles Sanders, a clear backup to Jordan Howard before Howard got hurt. DeAndre Swift had 12 carries in his first 4 games. Then after their bye, he started getting more work. Jonathan Taylor, I don't know what to make of that. 9 carries in week 1. He was the backup, but, Marlon Mack got hurt immediately. J.K. Dobbins, 25 carries in his first 6 games. I think you could look at some of these situations. Even Breece Hall, 21 carries in his first 3 games. A lot of these guys were not backing up good running backs, though, or certainly Michael Carter is not Ken Walker. Marlon Mack is not Ken Walker. So this is just the optimistic case. Carlos Hyde back in the Nick Chubb day, right? Wasn't Ken Walker. That a lot of these round 2 running backs, believe it or not, even though they were taken there, they don't get handed the starting job. They are clear backups. It takes an injury or bad performance from the veteran running back to get them in the lineup. Ken Walker might not, if that's the case, if he's getting 70% of the carries and Charbonnet's getting 7 carries a game or something, Ken Walker might just keep that job and Charbonnet might just have a very quiet rookie season. So that right there.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's probably where Heath and I differ, which is why I would still consider Walker in the 4th round. And I would still consider him, again, right around the 20th running back. There's obviously going to be some losses here. And, look, I think they've had a great draft. This was, again, they didn't have a very profound running back room. They needed to add some depth there to, make up for Ken Walker, who missed some time last year. Or to support Ken Walker, who missed some time last year, due to injury. And so if they felt that this was the best player on the board, they had a lot of draft capital. They addressed their secondary. They addressed their receiving core. They've done some nice things in the first 2 days of the draft with the capital that they've had. And so to get a player of his ability, that's just a good situation if that's what they felt was best for their team. Now, again, you could say, okay, maybe another offensive lineman makes more sense, some more depth there, however you want to go. But I think just looking at it for where Ken Walker comes out, yes, could he still be the lead guy by leaps and bounds? Absolutely. He did a lot of great things for them last year. But, you've referenced a lot of situations. This is also the same team that paid Matt Flynn a ton of money and then drafted Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson was better, and he was a starting quarterback forever for Seattle. So Pete Carroll, for what he does preach, competition and best player wins, he's proven that, and he's done it time and time again. So I think there could be a situation here where, as good as Ken Walker might be, as good as we saw him perform last year, if Charbonnet comes in and is just blowing the doors off the opportunities that he's getting, Ken Walker may not see the field very much. So you just have to take that into account for the coach that he's dealing with.
I think you did a good job, Adam, of illustrating that there's more upside than where we're going to rank Ken Walker now. Because there is. There's just also more downside.
Yeah.
Because like Jamie said, Charbonnet could win the job.
Yeah, I think you have to at least consider that this drafting of Charbonnet might tell you that the Seahawks don't like Ken Walker as much as we thought they did. And one thing I can guarantee, Jamie, if Zach Charbonnet is blowing the doors off, even if he's not, Pete Carroll's going to say that he is. That's the problem. We're never going to know the truth there.
Yeah, they are both going to have the best. They're going to be the greatest running back tandem camp in the history of running back tandems.
What do you guys think about Jacksonville with Bigsby going there? And is that, Heath, do you think that's a big threat to Travis Etienne? Tank Bigsby, 88th overall.
No, we saw Jermichael Hasty have a little role. They've talked this offseason about how they wanted to get this ball to Snoop Connor more. They felt like they needed a second running back to work alongside Etienne. I don't think the similarity in talent is as close as it is with Walker and Charbonnet. And so I think this is a clear starting running back, backup running back situation. I think it's too early maybe to take a backup running back. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Tank Bigsby will have a bigger role in the red zone or something. But I didn't downgrade Etienne at all when they took Bigsby.
Yeah, I agree. And Bigsby's another XPE guy. And, Tony Vellani, the trainer, told me just about how physical he is for a guy that can, run. And so he's got a lot of attributes, I think, that, teams covet, which is why he went in the third round. And again, another team, you mentioned Jermichael Hasty. Think about that, they traded James Robinson, and that was the guy that they went with as their backup running back last season. So they needed to add something to that room. They bring in Dearness Johnson. We'll see. He still might be the number 2 guy, at least early on in the season, because that's a guy that's shown some flashes and a guy that the Jaguars minimally invested in. So take that into account. But I think Bigsby is going to be a good complement to Etienne. I am curious to hear, at some point, whenever we get him on again, or, if I'm not on with him, but, this has been something Dan Schneider's been saying about how he didn't think that Etienne was the right fit for what Doug Peterson wants to do. And maybe that's true. And maybe Bigsby does have a bigger role than we anticipate. But I think everything that you've seen from how they used Etienne last year, I think he gets a bad rap for being considered a smaller back and not being able to run between the tackles. I think he's certainly capable of doing that and showed that last season. Does he necessarily find the crease and hit the hole the way that, maybe coaches want to see? There could be some legitimacy to that. But I think there's just so much more upside for Etienne. I think I think this offense is going to be absolutely stupendous, ridiculous. Just put up a ton of points. Schedule is very favorable. Trevor Lawrence on the rise. Doug Peterson's, one of the best play callers. And I think there'll be opportunities for both these guys. So this is a high-end handcuff. This is a guy that may end up getting some flex, opportunities for you, depending on how deep your league is. So he's in a good spot. But I don't think it's a threat to Etienne, in terms of where he can go. Maybe just knocks the ceiling down a little bit.
Cool. Let's talk about so then obviously Etienne is blowing away Ken Walker right now in your rankings.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about some winners and losers. You can go any direction you want. Obviously Daniel Jones is a huge winner, but did I say it? Oh, the clock struck midnight. I went an entire day without saying Daniel Jones, but Saturday the first words out of my mouth were Daniel Jones, so that's great. What do you think, Heath? Who are some winners we got for?
Yeah, I thought Jonathan Mingo was a pretty big winner. Here's an under the radar winner, Irv Smith. All these teams went and got tight ends, 9 tight ends in the first 3 rounds of the draft, and none of them went to the Cincinnati Bengals. And so I think he's going to be the Hayden Hurst of this year and could be a little better than Hurst was last year.
Yeah, that's another storyline that we could spend an hour on. The players that didn't have someone added. Still Tony Pollard, still Joe Mixon, right?
Yeah, I was that when you were going to come to me, I was going to say Rashad Penny, Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook. Yeah. The fact that 3 guys. I guess Alvin Kamara, you want to throw him in there too. Javonte Williams.
Kamara did get Kendre Miller.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, excuse me. But Mixon, Penny, Cook. Guys that still may be replaced. Don't be surprised if that's the case. But those teams not coming away with running backs in the first 2 days of the draft, I think is pretty telling. Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. You've heard Andy Reid just rave about them this offseason. And Rice, I don't think is the guy that's going to threaten them right away. He seems like more of a threat to MVS at some point down the road. So clearly you can't rule out DeAndre Hopkins based on Hopkins' wish list and the rumor of him going to Kansas City. I'm sure that's still a possibility, but I think just those two receivers not getting any significant threats is pretty encouraging, especially if you have those guys as dynasty options on your team.
And good comment from the chat: Foreman and Khalil Herbert, the Bears running backs.
Yeah, a lot of winners in that regard. Any of these wide receivers or
Rashad White too?
Yeah, absolutely. Any wide receivers, tight ends, offensive linemen, anything like that, elevating any quarterbacks for you?
I had this on my list yesterday when we were doing winners and losers. I don't think I said it, but Justin Fields, the fact that the Bears were able to get him some help.
Yes.
Offensive line wise. I mean, clearly, look, the Packers made a concerted effort on day 2 to put guys around Jordan Love. So 2 tight ends, a wide receiver. They needed weapons desperately. So that's a great situation for him, just to try and give him options, to improve.
And let me just go through who those players are for Jordan Love. He gets Jayden Reed, wide receiver out of Michigan State, and he gets 2 tight ends, Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. And those were all round 2 and 3 picks. Okay. I honestly, in all seriousness, it's good. It's been a good offseason for Daniel Jones. Waller, Hyatt as a big play threat, and I love the John Michael Schmitz pick at center. I think that's a day 1 starter for them.
Well, I mean, when you're looking at that Philly defensive line, you better give him some protection in the middle.
Yeah, no, I don't like him in that week. Yeah, no, but it's been a good offseason for him, undeniably. But anyway, they're gonna throw the ball. Yeah, what do you think, Heath?
I don't know. I mean, I tweeted out their depth chart at wide receiver, and I just put them in alphabetical order because I have absolutely no idea who their top 3 wide receivers are, who their top 2 wide receivers are, who their number 1 wide receiver is. No clue at all. I could not put any of the Giants wide receivers in any order.
Well, Adam, I mean, let's assume everybody's healthy. So Wandale and Shepard are ready by week 1.
Yeah.
Who's their top 3 receivers?
On the field or in fantasy?
Both.
Okay, definitely.
I would think there's probably the same.
Definitely, the guys who are on the bench are not going to score many points.
I don't think so. No, because Hyatt is a guy that is probably not going to be their day 1 starter, but could end up being their best receiver. He's an interesting prospect. We were seeing a lot of potential round 1, early round 2 for Hyatt as wide receiver 5, not round 1, but wide receiver 5. And he wasn't even close, really. He ended up being in round 3. The answer your question, Darius Slayton is a lock. I would say Wandale Robinson, and I have no idea. Hodgins on the outside.
I kind of thought that Hyatt and Slayton might be dependent on each other.
Yeah, I think Slayton starts and then Hyatt
tries to take his job. Yeah.
Yeah, Hyatt's got one, right? Hyatt and Tillman. I think this is kind of really interesting. They went back to back. Tillman to the Browns. Hyatt went 1 pick ahead to the Giants. So these are 2 Tennessee receivers. And if you look at the production when they were both playing, Tillman, I mean, there was no production for Hyatt, right? He did nothing in 2021.
In fairness to him, he was also behind Velus Jones.
He did nothing in 2021, and then he got totally outclassed in the first 2 games of the season by Tillman, and then Tillman got hurt, and then Hyatt won the Biletnikoff Award for the best receiver in the country, and he became a better prospect in a lot of people's eyes. So I don't know, like you've talked about those 2 a lot, Heath, throughout this process, and now that you see them going back to back, what do you think?
I loved it because the Giants actually traded up, I think, to take Hyatt over Tillman. And Dan and I had agreed just like 4 days ago that we were Tillman over Hyatt and weren't really huge fans of Hyatt. And so I, of course, immediately go to Dan's Twitter feed and just find 3 of the most glowing Jalen Hyatt tweets anyone's ever tweeted. Because, Big Blue. But no, I think Dan said it best. Hyatt has more upside than Tillman. Tillman is more likely to be a professional wide receiver. Like, I think there's a chance that Jalen Hyatt could have like a 400-yard season and a 600-yard season and doesn't get a second contract.
Dan was pretty low on Hyatt when he was getting the late first round, early second round buzz, and he ended up looking good there. And he's also very low on Will Levis, and he ended up looking good there as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about some more losers, and we'll go through some of these players. And I think we should spend a little bit more time on Kendre Miller. I mean, there's a chance that this guy's a starting running back for the Saints for 6 games or something like that. So that's an interesting storyline there. We'll be right back on FFT. Back one final time for the night. We'll have another recap episode tomorrow, or well, today, I guess. You're listening on Saturday. Later today, after day 3. I'm not sure if, Thomas, you're even aware of this. Dave, Richard, and I have been conspiring behind your back. Chris Trapasso is going to come on with us. Were you aware of that, Thomas? Okay, good. Chris Trapasso, I think you're off the hook, Heath.
That sounds fantastic.
Unless you want to come on.
I was probably not going to come anyway. So
I know you have a lot going on.
As soon as Thomas sent that text out that said I was a game time decision, I just figured, well, I'm clear now.
Yeah.
Out.
So Chris Trapasso he scouts everyone, and he's giving grades on our draft tracker on CBSSports.com for everyone. He's a terrific resource. He'll come on with us to talk about day 3. All right. So any losers for you guys? Any losers? Jamie.
Well, Walker obviously is the biggest one. The Dolphins guys that were, there, I think you got to be really worried about, Wilson and Mostert. Haskins, I'm trying to go through the running backs right now quickly in my head. Just what his potential could be. I think for the Browns selection of Tillman, and now looking at the acquisition of Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones, obviously David Bell is somebody that I was kind of excited about before they added Elijah Moore, just thinking that he was going to be their slot receiver. He's going to struggle to get on the field at this point, so and even Amari Cooper, just there's so many mouths to feed there with Njoku. So it's a good situation for Deshaun Watson. He should probably put in the winner category, just looking at all the weapons now he has at his disposal. But I think all the receivers there, Cooper to me was when my initial rankings was a borderline number 1 receiver. He was in my top 15, and I can't put him that high. He's still the best Browns receiver clearly, and still got a chance to be a very solid number 2 fantasy option. But I think he's the entire Browns receiving core is a loser just because of the additions that they made this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones at the beginning of the offseason, I thought was going to be one of my sleepers, and he might not be on the roster by the time week 1 gets here. I've got 3 running backs who I really thought I'd hoped would get day 2 draft capital, and now they're going to have to win as day 3 guys. Izzy Abenakanda, how did I do on that one, Andy?
Oh, Abenakanda.
Zach Evans and Roschon Johnson.
Who was the second one? I was thinking
Zach Evans and Roschon Johnson. Those 3 guys not getting picked on day 2 makes their path to dynasty success a lot more difficult.
Yeah, Abenakanda is really fascinating. This guy is fast, and he's got such a great name. And I was trying to sing Steve Miller Band Abracadabra over it, but I think I can work on that. Okay, how about Nelson Aguilar? Does he feel like a loser to you guys?
Was he ever a winner for us?
I don't know.
No, Nelson Aguilar, I'm sorry. Jacoby
Myers.
Myers.
Who does Nelson Aguilar play for?
Patriots, Raiders.
Nelson Aguilar's on the Ravens.
I know. He was on
he
the
is
Raiders,
a big loser.
and he was on the Patriots. He is a big loser, but
he lost. Yes.
Jacoby Myers is who I meant. I don't know.
No, I don't think he's a big loser. I mean, you probably make a case that Renfro's probably a bigger loser than he is. Just the fact that they drafted a small slot receiver if he is going to get on the field, and then the addition of Mayer. But yeah, again, I think anytime you add to these receiving cores, someone's going to take a hit in some capacity, for where even just their ceiling lies. So sure, you can make that case. I think Adam Thielen's a loser. The fact that Mingo was brought in. Heath was saying yesterday, or when we did our video on Bryce Young. I know you had him, I think, as in your 30s at receiver, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So he could still be that guy. There's no question about it. He's clearly the most proven and best track record there. But if Mingo is anything close to where he could be, it's hard for Thielen to reach his ceiling. Other losers?
Yeah, that's all right. Morgan says Adam's just making sure everyone's awake. LOL. Yep, I threw a Nelson Aguilar out there. Yeah, let me give you some few quick news items here.
He's actually a great trivia question for this draft, because if you I'm trying to think how to word it. Can you name all the first-round wide receivers on the Ravens right now?
Is Antonio Brown? Well, he wasn't a first-round pick, but is Antonio Brown on the Ravens? What was that all about?
He did say that he was joining the Ravens. He announced it, but they have not confirmed.
Okay. The first round. Okay, we got Bateman, we've got Beckham, we got Aguilar. Am I missing someone?
Yes.
Yes.
You're missing at least one.
Who did they?
He's
Is
hoping
Sammy
to bloom.
Watkins-
He's hoping to bloom this year.
Yes, there's one.
Peter
There- You're missing the most recent.
Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers. Is that all, or is Sammy Watkins still on the roster?
He's not on the roster. But prior to obviously us talking about Nelson Aguilar, nobody would ever think that Nelson Aguilar was a first-round wide receiver.
Yeah. News and notes. Arthur Smith likes Bijan Robinson's ability to play slot receiver. Yeah, that's cool.
That's good because they only have one receiver, so they're going to need him to play in some other places.
The Cardinals.
Oh, I know who I was thinking of when you loser. The Broncos receivers.
Yeah.
You think so? See, I don't know.
I
I
think
feel
Sutton
like
probably.
Mims is
Sutton's the biggest loser of the group, but you got Patrick coming back, and now the addition of
loser. Patrick's
but he's still going to play, and
right, he's a bigger loser than Sutton. Isn't Mims a Patrick replacement, not a Sutton replacement?
I mean, he could be a KJ Hamler replacement for all we know. But you're just looking at another mouth to feed with a new regime that drafted him. So the rumor of them trading a wide receiver, I think it still could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if Sutton gets moved, because how desperate teams are for wide receivers, and he's clearly, in terms of value plus age, so trending in the wrong direction for them, but still has value because of what he's done. But I think right now, if you're saying another receiver added to the mix, it hurts Dulcich. I think it hurts Judy slightly. And then it, impacts Sutton and impacts Patrick as well.
That was a late round 2 pick on Mims.
They traded up to get him. I did like, you saw Warren Sharp's tweet, I assume.
Oh, no, I didn't. 4
times Sean Payton has drafted a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. This could be trivia too, but we wouldn't get him. Robert Meacham, Brandon Cooks, Michael Thomas, Marvin Mims.
That's interesting. I don't know, but just look at I don't want people to jump to that conclusion that a second round wide receiver is necessarily a bad thing for the, incumbent wide receivers. Look at the guys who were drafted in the second round last year. Christian Watson.
I think it just depends on how good the guys are.
I know, but we don't know how good they are. And I don't that's the thing about Mims. I don't think people think
I meant the guys who are currently there. I'm not worried about Judy losing out, but I don't know if Cortland Sutton's good.
Yeah, but I don't think these guys
or
are
if Sean Payton likes him at all.
My point is a round 2 wide receiver is not guaranteed to have a huge role. Wan'Dale Robinson.
He was going to have a monster role before he got hurt. Come on.
I don't know about that.
Did you see what he did before he got hurt?
He wasn't doing that much. He had that one game against the Lions. He was one of 3 wide receivers who had a huge game against the Lions.
And then he got hurt.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything before that, really. Barely. Tyquan Thornton was around.
You're the one that preaches what these guys do at the second half of the season.
You are presuming that it was going to happen. I think that's a jump to conclusions based on one game against the Lions.
That's a terrible take by you.
No, I don't think so. Tyquan Thornton was a round 2 pick. George Pickens was a round 2 pick. Alec Pierce, Sky Moore. That's it.
I think George Pickens was bad for Chase Claypool.
And Deontay Johnson.
No, he wasn't bad for Deontay Johnson. Johnson had
those touchdowns were great.
I don't think Pickens Kenny Pickett was bad for Deontay Johnson, and Kenny Pickett was bad for Chase Claypool, and probably Chase Claypool was bad for Chase Claypool. All right.
Read off all the second round wide receivers in the last few years who have been good also.
I mean, sure, Christian Watson was pretty good. Let's go to 2021. We had Elijah Moore. We had Rondale Moore did nothing. Dwayne Eskridge did nothing. Tutu Atwell did nothing. Terrace Marshall did nothing. I'm telling you, there are more nothings in round 2 than there are somethings. I'm serious. This is an important lesson. Should go one more year?
It was in 2021 for sure.
It was in 2022 as well. I didn't include John Mechie for obvious reasons. All right, let's go to
how are DK Metcalf and AJ Brown?
They were okay. AJ Brown had
How was T. Higgins?
What? But okay, Higgins was the first pick of round 2.
Oh, so now that
it does matter. It does matter. It absolutely matters. You're talking about 20 picks difference between him. You're talking almost 30 pick difference between him and Mims.
This is the kind of the same thing you did with Charbonnet, and I think like you're highlighting the fact that it doesn't necessarily mean that, but that's not the same thing as saying it doesn't mean that.
Oh, I didn't say it doesn't, but okay, fine. 2021 or 2020, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, bad rookie year. Laviska Shenault, KJ Hamler, Chase Claypool, Van Jefferson.
His rookie year was good.
It was fine. Denzel Mims. Chase Claypool, what was his rookie year? His rookie year,
8 touchdowns in his rookie year.
8 touchdowns or something.
He and Higgins are the only guys in the second round. I think there were 6 wide receivers in the second round. Pittman, nothing. Shenault, nothing. Hamler, nothing. Who else? Van Jefferson, nothing. Denzel Mims, nothing. I'm telling you, man, there are more nothings than somethings in the second round. I'm telling you. You know what? I'm right. I'm right about this.
I want to see the 10-year research, but
as rookies, I'm talking about as rookies, not
right.
career.
I'm not saying Mims is going to be good as a rookie. I'm saying he's going to impact the receiving corps.
Right.
Yeah,
that was the point.
I don't know that he will. I think there's more evidence that he won't.
That he won't impact the receiving corps?
Yeah.
I don't understand you.
Why?
Wow.
I just gave
because
him.
all he has to do is impact one of those guys, and he's impacting the receiving corps.
Yeah, but if he impacts,
He's just gave you an example from Warren Sharp's tweet about what Sean Payton has done when he's traded up.
Come on.
So
you know
somebody in the chat said this is a Dan level take, and I just want to know, like, does Dan have the reputation of having worse takes than you? Because I don't know how anybody would deal with that if that was true.
Your Wan'Dale Robinson take is amazing to me.
No, you're wrong about Wan'Dale Robinson.
He was going to be really bad.
You're making a big assumption about Wan'Dale Robinson.
But 3rd round pick, Jalen Hyatt.
I just don't understand how you.
No, I don't think Jalen Hyatt's going to be really good. I think he's good for Jones. He's a playmaker. They need a playmaker.
You of all people are the one who stands by this that they build towards something in their rookie campaign, and by the end of the season, and he was just starting to get on the field and getting opportunities, and you're assuming that he wasn't going to have a big role when he tears ACL.
Okay, he wasn't good. He wasn't gonna. Wan'Dale Robinson was not going to replace Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. He was going to take Richie James off the field. That's my point.
He didn't have the opportunity to play with Jerry Jeudy.
I understand that.
How do you know?
You are talking about in that game that you are Wan'Dale Robinson at 100 yards in that game.
Did he have 6 targets in the half that he got hurt?
No, he played 3 quarters. He had 13 targets. He went off in that game. Daniel Jones.
No, the game he got hurt.
That was the game he got hurt. He tore his ACL that game.
He got 13 targets in a game. He played 70% of the snaps.
Yeah, he had a great game. The game before that, he had 2 targets on 75% of the snaps. Come on, guys. He had 15 yards. He had 35 yards in the 2 games before that. And then he placed the Lions.
But he had 8 targets in the game before that.
And he had 4 in the game before that. You're cherry picking. You're azering right now.
No.
You're worse than me.
I think it just illustrates how bad Daniel Jones is.
Yeah.
I can't believe this is what drives me crazy. In my mind, I am so right about everything right now. And 90% of our audience is going to side with you guys because you make it seem like I'm saying something crazy. I have actually presented facts. You are just presenting conjecture, and somehow
starting to build towards something. I don't understand how you disagree with that.
I
that
think
receiving corps was terrible.
Right. What? But I don't understand what your broader point is. I still think I win the broader point.
No, my broader point, the initial part of this conversation, the point was that Mims is going to impact the Broncos receiving corps. You have a coach that just took over this team, that traded up to get this guy, and you're looking at it, and yes, Jerry Jeudy has a chance to still be a star. That doesn't change. But he may get 10 less targets now because Mims is there. And he may get 2 touchdowns less because Mims is there. And so he's a slight loser. Cortland Sutton's a significant loser. Tim Patrick's a definite loser. And so they all get brought down because there was somebody added to the mix. Dulcich gets brought down.
I just don't understand how you can say that so confidently when I just gave you at least 10 examples over the last 3
Okay, but go back to the 10 examples and tell me that the receivers that those guys played with did not lose because they were part of a broader picture here of somebody being added to the mix.
If you take somebody like Laviska Shenault, even if he hadn't been added to the mix, somebody was going to have those targets. You know, I mean, it's not like Denzel. It's not like Denzel Mims is, or sorry, not Denzel Mims. Marvin Mims is coming in and, just taking nobody's targets. I mean, he's going to maybe take Hamler's targets or something like that. And I have illustrated time and time again also that if you're a very good receiver, you are not affected by a rookie receiver coming in.
Yeah. My question is whether Courtland Sutton's a very good receiver.
Well, yeah. I mean, if Judy's as good as we hope he is, Marvin Mims is not, unless Marvin Mims just has a great year. Maybe he's much better than I think he is. I think Marvin Mims is a deep threat. I think that's what he is right now. I think he's
most likely. He is most likely just going to replace KJ Hamler. That's the most realistic situation. But if he is anything more than that, those other guys, the top 3 guys, lose.
Or they just have a much better offense. Maybe Sutton loses. Fine. You know what? You're probably right. But I think what I've shown is that in their rookie years, they're usually not more than that. No matter how much we like them. If they're second-round picks, especially if they're late second-round
picks. KJ Hamler have in total yards last year?
I don't even know. But they were obviously terrible. We expect them to be better than they were last year. Maybe he hurts Greg Dulcich. Maybe they just put up a lot better stats and he hurts nobody.
Maybe.
Hamler had 7 catches for 165 yards in 7 games. I can't believe we're even talking about it.
I think Marvin Mims might have a better season than that.
Yeah, I think so. But Russell Wilson.
People I think were expecting me to be more excited about the Chiefs wide receiver than I was. And Marvin Mims is part of the reason that I wasn't, because I didn't really like Rashee Rice very much before, and they traded up to get him, and then the Broncos used the Chiefs pick to pick Marvin Mims, who I did like a lot. But I think Jamie was 100% right that he's way more MVS than anything else in this offense. Like he's aspiring to be MVS.
But do you think this is Rashee Rice on the Chiefs? He obviously looks more like MVS than he does like Kadarius Toney or Sky Moore.
He also has a very limited route tree like MVS.
What if he's just a better player and commands more targets than MVS?
I don't know. He's a second-round receiver. It's hard to trust those guys.
I don't. I mean, I don't think he's going to have that big of an impact. Do you think, should I downgrade Travis Kelce because the Chiefs took Rashee Rice? Because by your logic,
there's tight end buckets and there's wide receiver buckets, and
there's superstar buckets, and nobody on the Broncos has achieved superstar status yet.
Right. And the Chiefs are pretty terrible at evaluating wide receivers from the evidence we've seen over the last few years in terms. And I don't really like. I said it when I thought they might.
Tyreek Hill was pretty good.
He was. That's. But as you can see, Jamie, we're talking about the vast majority have not been. But I also don't think that a receiver as a rookie, it's fair to expect them to make a big impact in this offense.
Yeah. Let's see, 2019, maybe 2019 was a great year. Oh, no, it wasn't really. Okay, you had Deebo Samuel. He was the 36th pick overall. He didn't have a great rookie year, did he?
That's not the bar we're talking about. We're talking about, did the receiver have the type of year that impacted the players on the team?
No.
If you have 600 yards and you're replacing a guy who had 150 like KJ Hamler, then you will take from the pie.
He had 802 yards, and I think, how many did George Kittle had? George Kittle had 1,000 yards in 14 games, 1,053 yards.
There's tight end buckets, Adam.
Well, what am I supposed to do with that? Did he affect Emmanuel Sanders on his last legs? Maybe.
Bad year for Emmanuel Sanders that year.
Who else was drafted in the first round? I bet at that time, A.J. Brown in the second round. A.J. Brown was. Okay. Mecole Hardman was. Were we worried about Tyreek Hill at that point?
We were very worried about Tyreek Hill at that point, but not because of his production. That was the potential suspension.
Okay, but seriously, he's a superstar, so this doesn't apply to him.
Right.
J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was a second-round pick. Paris Campbell was a second-round pick. Andy Isabella was a second-round pick. Are you going
to read every second-round pick from the last 10 years?
I think I've made my point. Let's talk about 2 more running backs here.
Still the stupidest point was the Wan'Dale Robinson.
No, you are taking one game and assuming too much.
2 out of 4.
Remember how many times we got excited about Wan'Dale Robinson on the waiver wire last year? And then
twice.
The following game? No, more than that.
I mean, he only had 2 good games. So I don't know why would we have gotten excited other than the fact that we're required to talk about the Giants every podcast.
That's a good question. All right. Talk to me about Kendre Miller, Saints, Devon, Achane, Dolphins. Jamie, give me the best case scenario for these guys.
Alvin Kamara suspended for 6+ games, and the Saints decide that Jamal Williams is not going to get the Alvin Kamara role in the passing game and maybe not get the carries that he is vacating as well. And then Miller comes in and has just an unbelievable opportunity there behind an offense. I think that will be a little bit better than people expect, especially if Michael Thomas is healthy, knowing that Chris Olave, Thomas, and Rashid Shaheen are a pretty good receiving core. And, maybe Derek Carr is a little bit better in that situation. But I think for the Dolphins situation, again, you have two injury-prone running backs that could easily fall off and get replaced in a second. And this is a team that clearly values speed above everything else, understandably so. And he's one of the fastest players coming in the league.
I'm afraid that Kendre Miller is just a young man's Jamal Williams. I'm not sure he's going to have a huge role in the passing game, and I'm not sure he's going to be super explosive. But I do see an upside of Achane could just be a top 24 running back. I think that the upside's really high for him if he can just displace Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, which really should not be that difficult at their age and stage of their career.
What do you guys think about Jayden Reed? Because we've spent time on Mingo and we spent time on Rashee Rice, and Reed was right in between them. He's the 6th wide receiver drafted in this class, and 5'11", 187 pounds out of Michigan State, ran a 4.45 40. Has some return experience. He goes to the Green Bay Packers. What do we think about Jayden Reed? And would you rather have Reed or Romeo Doubs in a dynasty league?
Doubs, but I think it's a situation with monitoring. Look, they're hitting the reset button. It's pretty clear. You move on from Rodgers, and you got to see what Jordan Love has, but you got to give Jordan Love weapons. And so this receiving core was terrible, and still might be terrible. Christian Watson, who knows how good he will be now that he is the guy coming into the year, and all the expectations of what that role means. Doubs was very good early on last season, and then dealt with the injury and Watson's development, and never really got back to that. But again, LaFleur was just so glowing about him at the owners' meetings. And now you have a rookie coming in to hopefully be that third guy, but it's still very, very much of a project in my opinion. So yeah. I don't want to say he's better than the two guys that are there.
No, I thought this was a win for Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. If this is the best competition they add to the Packers receiving core for the offseason, then I probably need to move both those guys up a little bit from where I had them.
Kent brings up a good point. He says, you guys are also forgetting that this is a weak wide receiver class. Should keep that in mind, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
And Kent actually is on fire today. He says, guys, the stats don't lie. Adam is right. And then he says, he's not even Azer statting this time.
At least he spelled your name right.
He did not spell my name right. That's the only thing he got wrong in this. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Oh, wait. Very interesting tight end prospect. Heath, give me 10 seconds. Your thoughts on Darnell Washington, 6'7", 264 pounds, second largest hands for a tight end in NFL combine history. Very limited production, but a lot of upside. He goes to Pittsburgh, 93rd overall, Darnell Washington.
10 seconds. Darnell Washington is going to help Najee Harris. He's a really good blocker. He's not going to have any redraft value. He's a long-term project in terms of dynasty value.
Ooh, man, that's good.
Somebody told me that he said that I'm assuming met with the media, that he might be moving to tackle.
They said that if he had agreed to do that and worked on it, that he would have gone earlier. But he called himself a 6th offensive lineman.
Okay.
Here, hold on. I got this.
He ran a 4.64 at 6'7", 264. Probably, I think I heard Rick Spielman talking about this. I feel like he was talking about him. He probably is heavier than that. A lot of guys lose weight for the combine. But, yeah, I mean, he may end up – Darnell Washington may very well end up being attacked.
I think he could help their run blocking.
Cool. Well, yeah, that'd be great. And they took a tackle in the first round for the first time since 1996.
Yeah, I think maybe that's something we have overlooked a little bit is Najee Harris could be a winner. Better blocking in front of him now.
Do you guys I know you didn't read my mock draft. Do you know what movie won Best Picture the last time the Steelers drafted an offensive tackle in the first round?
What year was it?
1996.
Best Picture?
Mm-hmm.
Titanic?
I don't know what Titanic is. But it was not Titanic. It was not Titanic. That would have been my guess. That was my original guess. Bunch of guys riding around on horses, their faces painted.
Dances with the Wolves?
Braveheart. Yeah. My favorite movie, actually. And with that, that's some Animator trivia for you. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody. Have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow with Dave Richard and Chris Trapasso.
Your Wandale Robinson take is Titanic.
A great way to close the show. He insults both of us at the buzzer. See you later, everybody.